So let's talk a little bit about
John Moxley.
John Moxley. Obviously, he did the Talk Is Jericho podcast, and
now
go ahead.
Now, for people that did ask me, they were like, "Hey, why didn't he talk about Double or Nothing?" If you listen to the beginning of the podcast, Jericho does state, because Jericho's podcasts are usually him talking and then sending it to the pre-recorded interview. And he did say it. He said, "Hey, Double or Nothing was a great show. I had a lot of fun, but this interview with Moxley was recorded 3 days prior to Double or Nothing."
So what I have here are some of the key points, if you don't mind me reading them out.
Go for it.
So some of the notes that I have down is he talks about his frustration with the writing and the creative team, obviously, which seems to be the crux of like every person leaving. Knew he wanted to leave in July of 2018. He did not like using Roman Reigns' cancer to get heat. No. And he even confronted Vince about it. He didn't even bother. He also said he didn't bother looking at the contract that WWE had offered him. He knew he was done. He tried to say that Vince came up to him to say another remark about Reigns that was like super fucking distasteful, and Moxley said that it would have probably lost them sponsors. And Tim, you know what that quote is, right?
It was something. He's like, I won't even say the exact. He literally said, I won't even say the exact quote here on this podcast because it was that bad. But it was something about Reigns' leukemia sending him to live with the good Lord above, or something along those lines.
One of the big ones that a lot of people, when this was first announced, a lot of people were skeptical about it. And he said he felt like the Nia Jax angle was just to embarrass him because it was minutes after he told them that he was not going to resign, he was going to leave.
Well,
minutes.
He said that he told Vince, "You're going to bury me on the way out," or he said something along those lines to Vince. And Vince is like, "Oh no, we wouldn't do that to you." So he felt that the whole Nia thing was, "Oh, they're going to bury me."
He says that most of the reason they played up Dean not coming back was so Vince could control the story of him leaving.
Yeah, so the dirt sheets couldn't say it one way. And him and Jericho both said that it was the weirdest thing that they'd ever seen when WWE put out their press release stating that Dean Ambrose is going to leave in April when his contract does expire. Like, they were both shocked by that because WWE's never done something like that before.
A couple other things that stood out was Moxley spent $8,000 on that video.
Yeah, the one that went live as soon as he was free.
Yep, and then this one was the biggest one to me, and it really stood out.
Well, hold on, before you say that. If people didn't hear the podcast, he actually filmed that video back in February, 2 months before he was even a free agent. So he said that he was filming it with a wrestler named Sick Nick Mondo. If you've heard of him, cool. If you haven't, look him up. He's pretty cool. Nice,
he's great,
hardcore
actually.
wrestler. And Vince called him about something, and he goes, "Sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm shooting a movie or something." He basically made Vince think that he was working on a movie, not filming this video to say, "Hey, I'm a free agent," which he stated that him and Mondo may be actually working on turning that 2-minute video into an actual movie.
I'd like that. I'd like to see that. And the final thing that stood out to me the most, he was paid $500 for that Shield special on the network.
So he says, but I don't know about that one because
and he said that that's $500 is what extras get for appearing on TV.
And I don't know about that because it's like he was still under contract at that time technically, so wouldn't he still be getting paid his downside guarantee for the month? Unless it was that, it was a special, so they paid guys extra, and that's what he got extra. I don't know about that part, about the whole $500 thing. You know what I mean?
I see your side, but I don't know.
Take it for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So that Dean stuff is really interesting. Or I keep saying Dean. I'm sorry. That Moxley stuff is really super interesting because a lot of the reason, and I believe Simon Gotch took to Twitter and he said, Dean, or I keep saying Dean. John says all these things and he gets appraised, but when someone like Simon Grimm says it, he gets castorized for it and just as though you're being bitter. So it's interesting to keep seeing people's sides of the story come out as more and more begin to leave the company. And with that, talking a little bit about the prison video, Moxley appeared in another video for New Japan Pro Wrestling, as he will be taking on my favorite goddamn wrestler, Juice Robinson, for the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. That's going to be fun. That match is going to be a lot of fun. Those two guys are absolutely going to tear it up. I think just having Moxley back in the ring is going to be super refreshing. And this is, again, talking about wrestling is great when it's refreshing, because I haven't seen him in like a legitimate match in a while. It's been a while since I've seen him in something that I'm actually invested in. And seeing him do everything to all the people in the ring, Kenny, Chris, and the referee in the ring, and ending the night with an AA on the chips, it was just cool. It was awesome. And now going up against Juice Robinson, who's arguably one of my favorite wrestlers, super outstanding, a great feud for a guy like Dean. It's going to be a lot of fun.
You think Moxley takes that title from Juice?
Yeah, fuck yeah, he does, dude. Absolutely.
You know the one thing, because you said the whole $5 to $100 thing stood out to you the most. The one thing that stood out to me the most in the thing was when he goes, I knew I was leaving AEW or not. I was leaving that company. He's like, if I had to, I was going to go start.
If there was not another company on earth, I still would have left.
He's like, I would have left and started my own school and my own thing and trained guys for me to fight. He's like, I just wanted out of there. He said that his favorite thing in wrestling were cutting promos. WWE made that a chore and something that he ultimately ended up hating. Were cutting promos.
I don't know if you heard me say this, but did you hear how a lot of those reasons why he left, like, other wrestlers have said? But like, it's crazy to see how
Sean said on his Listen to Your Boy podcast, he's talked to a number of wrestlers today in WWE that have listened to his podcast, and almost all of them all said, we feel the same way. He didn't name any names, of course, but a number of wrestlers said, that's how a lot of us feel, is exactly what John said.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. We do know that at Fyter Fest next month for AEW, he will be taking on Joey Janela. I assume. Well, actually, no, I don't know. Because I would think that those two guys, you put them in like a hardcore match. But they already have a hardcore match on the card with Jabali and Nakazawa.
I still say you can do it with Dean and people will still be invested.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, do you really want two hardcore matches on the same show?
Sure. Because it's Dean. Or
True.
It's John.
It's Dean Ambrose and Joey Janela, and that's what a lot of people associate with them is weapons and crazy matches.
Because they don't even. I mean, in theory, you could call it and give it a completely different style of stipulation.
Very true.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be your typical hardcore match.
Right.
So there's a lot going for that. But we just wanted to bring up all the stuff that happened with
very
with John
interesting.
Moxley that
hour and 30-minute podcast.
If you get the chance to listen to it, do it.
Yeah,
I say
sure.
do it. It's great.
Jericho did tweet out, and because literally like months before, or not months, what am I saying? Hours after it went live, because it went live right at midnight Pacific time. Mm-hmm. And within like 2 hours, it was the #1 trend on Twitter. Hashtag Talk is Jericho. And then Jericho also tweeted out stating, I can't find the tweet here now, but basically that it was less than 10 hours of being live, biggest episode they've ever had.
He's a fucking draw, dude.
So
he's a draw, man.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's insane.
Crazy the things that he said, though.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, and I did like his thing where he was like, it wasn't all bad in WWE. He's like, I kind of learned to grow up while I was there. He's like, I joined the company 8 years ago as a boy, and I left as a man. He's like, and I really loved all the Make-A-Wish stuff that I got to do. And he's like, if there's only one thing that I take away from my time in WWE, he's like, I met my best friend, my wife.
Aww.
He was like, if there's one thing that I take away from that as a positive, is that I met my wife, my best friend. So
that's adorable.
So it was just interesting to hear. And he did go into it. First thing he's like, I'm not burying the company, but there's things that need to be said.
Yeah, and I feel like these are things that, like, again, they're never, a lot of these things aren't said to bury. It's said to be like, you guys need to wake up and realize this and fix this.
Right.
WWE can easily be on top and can easily beat AEW if they fucking tried.
I mean, he even said it, though. He feels like, because he was like talking about the differences between Vince McMahon and Tony Khan. He was like, Tony Khan, he's a pro wrestling fan. You can go and talk to him about any kind of pro wrestling. Vince just likes sports entertainment. He also said that he thinks Vince is burnt out from doing this 7 days a week for 40 years.
Wouldn't you?
Probably. Most likely.
Wouldn't you? I get burnt out of my retail job. I've been at that thing for 6 months, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, honestly, you can look at it and see that Vince is probably burnt out of this for doing it for 40 years. But he did say, he basically said at one point, Vince is to blame for the shitty TV because writers will write one thing, it gets to Vince, and then, oh, hey, yeah, this is what Vince wrote for you. It's not like, oh, yeah, Vince approved what we wrote. No, it got to Vince. Vince rewrote it. Here's what Vince wants you to say. I mean, there was one time when a script came back to him, and it was literally, said, notes from VKM. Read the script verbatim.
Ugh. Good Lord.
Very crazy stuff. But hey, he's able to say it. He got it. He got it out there, and now I don't know if this is going to make WWE change. I don't know if this is going to make Triple H go, hey, there might be others that feel the same way. What do we need to do, Vince? And go from there.
And that's a great thing you bring up there. What the fuck? If this isn't the straw that fucks the camel's back, what is?
Exactly.
At what point do they not put fucking Baron Corbin for the goddamn title? When are they gonna fucking learn? It's like a stupid idiot kid that just like every day sticks the fucking fork in the wall socket and it hurts. And he's like, I wonder why that hurt. And he fucking does it again. And he does it again. And he doesn't learn from his goddamn mistakes. It's frustrating as fuck.
But here's the other thing, though. We always hear Vince is not going to put something on television that he doesn't think is good. So Vince thinks that all this is good. And so when you use that analogy, Vince has got to go.
He does. Vince has got to go.
But Dean even said it. Dean even said it, though. Vince probably ain't going nowhere. He's going to die in that chair.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll never step down.
No. Until it comes to the day where he's told that he's not allowed to travel anymore or something, or then he'll just probably micromanage through a fucking iPad on Skype.
I think Vince McMahon knows how to use an iPad.
Hey, he's seen the fucking LeBron James with the cutoff shorts in the tuxedo. He's hip, remember?
Did you just fucking compare using a goddamn iPad to looking at a fucking a professional basketball player in a short suit?
I did, because he's hip to the times. So using an iPad means he's hip to the times.
What a mark. God,
Who?
You. That fucking ringtone, man.
I had that ringtone for years.
You know what my ringtone is? The default Apple one. Because it goes hard.